Oh shit. Oh shit. What's going on, chat? Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another Therapy Thursday. For those watching this on YouTube, this is being recorded on August 3rd, 2023. For those that are new here and don't know what this is about, this is essentially a stream that we do for about a couple hours. It's myself, Kilted Pork, along with my sister Asteria, who is a professional therapist, and basically we like to sit here and encourage people to come into chat live on Twitch. And if you have any mental health questions, just throw it up in chat, and basically we discuss it. If you're feeling a certain way or there's something bothering you, or you just have general curiosity as to why people act the way they do, then come on by, throw it in chat. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check the link in the description below the video. Go to twitch.tv/kilted_pork, give us a follow, and we do this every Thursday, or pretty much every Thursday, unless something happens like me getting sick like I did last week. So Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. That being said, let's get the old therapist in here herself. Hello, therapist, are you here? Don't worry, chat. I know she's in here. I see she's in Discord. She's just muted. So
I am muted.
There she is. Hello.
Hello.
How
I am here. I am therapist.
That is therapist. Welcome, therapist.
Hello. Welcome me and welcome you and welcome us on this Thursday.
It is Thursday.
Not just any Thursday. It is National Thursday.
What?
It's National Thursday.
It's Nationwide Thursday.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, thank goodness. I'm glad it's a holiday. Or not a holiday,
I'd
but
say that. It's just national.
It's a worldwide Thursday. Welcome.
Mr. Worldwide. Dale.
Mr. Worldwide. Thursday Worldwide.
Dale. What are they gonna say? Oh gosh. Hold on. I have to move. Anyway, how are you feeling? Like you got hit by the bug.
I did get hit by the bug. I was out
How you feeling?
for a few days. I feel pretty good now. Still like tired from time to time, but I think that's just back to a standard tired now. Just life.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, things have been stressful.
Have things gotten better since you've gotten better?
In what terms?
Like, I don't know, you said they're stressful. Like, has there been less stress?
No.
Oh.
I mean, there's just other things going on. I finally got rid of that dryer out of my living room. That was nice.
Oh, that's good. Did someone buy it?
Yeah. So
oh, neat.
They picked it up last night. Thank God.
How much did you sell it for?
$1.50.
Oh, not that bad.
Well, because I had it posted up there, and I was like, hey, it doesn't come with the power cable, and nobody was going to buy it.
Right.
Like, it was just up there. Like, it had 500 people viewed that thing, and nobody bought it. And so, what was it, Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Wednesday. I was on my way home, and I had to stop by Lowe's because I needed some nails so I can hang up my new enamel pin display case. Since mine's full, so I had to get another one.
Oh, nice.
So I picked up the nails. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a power cable while I'm here for that thing. So that cost me like $32. And I was like, okay, well, the price has now gone from $100 to $150. Just because I bought a $30 power cable. Did not get rid of it for $150 just because the guy, first he showed up, he was saying, oh, no, do you have... it wasn't Venmo. It was like it was like Cash App or something. I was like, no. He was like, oh, I'd have to go get cash. I was like, well, there's a bank over there, so have fun. And so he went and got cash, and he's like, do you have a 10? I was like, I don't. And it wasn't until after he left I remember I did have a 10. It was just buried in a backpack somewhere. And I was like, oh crap, I did have one in that bag, which is in the closet. I just forgot about it. So I sold it for $1.40.
Well, that's not that bad.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, good for you.
I still made a profit on that stupid power cable. I don't know. It's just whatever. It's silly. So,
Yeah.
how are you?
I am feeling a little stressed, but in the way of like what is last asked of me for my job, because this week is actually specifically tomorrow is my last day at my current job. And I will be then moving to my outpatient job and getting contracted into my current place for like both seeing clients and like covering groups here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, how is that different from your current job? Well, I get paid more.
Gotcha.
Like I get paid a lot more.
I'm
And
jealous.
I'm tired. So I will be tomorrow will be my last day, and then on Saturday I'm going to be flying out to go see my best friend.
Oh yeah.
And so I'll be out for a week, and then when I come back that following Monday will be my first day at my new job.
Nice. Well, that being
Yeah.
said, there's going to be no therapy Thursday then, I imagine, unless you still want to try to do it from whatever the hell state you're going to. I forgot. Like Kentucky or
Probably
something.
not, just because the time difference. So, but I'll be around for the one following.
Gotcha.
Definitely. So,
All right, chat, you heard it here. No therapy Thursday next week. So if you got questions, get it in now. Actually, before I forget, tell everybody your like who you are and your qualifications and whatever.
yeah.
What you can and can't do. I'm drawing a blank on words.
That's okay. On here, I will be going by Asteria. I am an associate marriage and family therapist, and I work under the state of California. So I have the ability to, as a marriage and family therapist, I conduct treatment to individuals, couples, families, and so forth. And my background concentration is trauma and substance. Those are my background like concentrations. And the reason why I do this is, one, to have a very insightful conversation with Kilted, in addition to providing back to the community. I understand that mental health is at an all-time like high in regards to how like impacted it is right now, and I know that resources are hard to come by and are expensive. So we do therapy Thursday to like answer questions, talk about different topics. And it's important for me to highlight that I do not do diagnoses on here. And for anyone under the age of 18, I'm very particular about what kind of way I go about answering questions. So anything that has to do with also with like suicidality and so forth, I'm going to go ahead and refrain from like answering a lot of those questions for especially anyone under the age of 18, and encourage you to get treatment and talk to a safe person, or find your local crisis number and get the support that you deserve. Those crisis numbers tend to be free to access. And yeah, so any general topics, any general questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we just talk about random topics on here, and just kind of have a very open conversation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, with a therapist and all that, today I did call this up an appointment with my primary care physician.
Nice.
It's going to be like a week and a half out. And so I'm going to talk to him and see if he can refer me over to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist?
Nice.
Yeah, I want to try to get that thing handled. And I'll go into that. Let's see. Eggy's here. Hi, Eggy. Is there any kind of emotional support dog for those with anxiety/depression?
Wait, one more time?
Says, is there any kind of emotional support dog for those with anxiety and depression?
Like a specific one for emotional support? Well, there are emotional support dogs and just overall support animals. I would definitely recommend getting support animals that are trained to support when it comes to specifically like anxiety and depression, and going through the proper channels of talking to a mental health professional about that, meaning like going to your therapist and so forth, because again, I can only speak on the state of California, in that you can talk to a proper mental health provider that can provide a emotional support animal letter, which allows you to go ahead and have that animal with you in any kind of housing situation, and so forth, and may get some accommodations. However, I also know a lot of people like abuse that system by just like saying like, oh, my dog is my emotional support, and that is not the same. I would recommend to go get one that is specifically trained to support with depression and anxiety.
Yes. She says that her dad said that she can get a dog if her therapist signs off on it and says it would help her mental health. As far as breeds go, if you're interested in that part of it, everything that I've seen, it seems like Labradors, or not Labradors, I'm sorry, like Golden Retrievers. Those are the ones. Those always seem to be the ones that everyone has a good experience with.
Yeah, I could see how Labrador Retrievers are more common too. I would also say other dog breeds that are really good and supportive for this would also be like pit bulls. I would actually agree, or pit bulls were actually known at one point. This is not clinically indicated. This is just I like dogs. That pit bulls were actually known to be like supportive of helping like raise children, and kind of are very intuitive. And they're also hyperallergenic, I believe. My gut's telling me that because I remember because they are short hair, and so forth. And yeah, so pit bulls, labs, ultimately a lot of dog breeds can fit the role, if they're just like trained properly.
Gotcha. She says she wants a pit bull. Her dad wants a Frenchie. But she was more curious, just wanted to know if they can say, like, so can I guess, who would prescribe that, or say it wouldn't be a therapist, would it be a psychologist, or no?
That a dog is an emotional support animal?
Yeah.
No, you could go to like any licensed individual. So a licensed marriage and family therapist, a licensed clinical counselor, a licensed, I think maybe a social worker, but don't quote me on that one too much. And it's ultimately anyone that under their license, they said that they're like, oh, I'm willing to sign off on you getting a support animal.
Okay, so there you go, Eggy. So yeah, they can do it.
Yeah, they could do it, and it could be for literally like any animal. Not any animal, but any animal that is can be and is registered and identified as a one of like the exceptional animals on the list. So it's like you could do dogs, I think maybe cats, I know some birds. I also know that miniature horses are something that's allowed in California. Yeah.
Keep it simple, folks.
Your emotional support miniature horse.
Exactly. This is my emotional support ostrich. I take it to the store. It really likes the rice section. It's like, Jesus. Can you imagine you're walking around with like a fucking 10-foot bird, like through a damn store? It's like,
That's hilarious.
Just see its head coming up over the aisle, just like freaking tweaking out as it's watching everybody else. I'd be like, no, I am leaving.
Like, you know what? That's enough for me today.
And you're walking, you're like, who dropped an entire cream pie in the middle of this fucking aisle over here? Oh, that's a bird shit. It just looks like it came out of a freaking pterodactyl.
I would also say and be mindful that a lot of stores do not see and view emotional support animals as service animals.
The store I go to, they say you can bring your animal in only if it has certification papers.
Yeah.
And it has to have like the vest and all that stuff.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think stores can actually ask you for your papers. I don't like my gut again is telling me that, but you could also just go through the proper channels to get that confirmed or not.
Eggy says they can't.
Yeah. I don't think they can ask you.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Well, there you go, Eggy. You can add to your farm of animals that you've already had. Because apparently she's had like rats and spiders and hedgehogs and squirrels and parrots.
Lions and tigers and bears.
Sadly, a lot of people just buy the vest online and take their pets. Hedgehogs are illegal. Are they really? I did not know that they were illegal. Never mind, she does not have them. All right, she's never had hedgehogs then.
Oh man, hedgehogs are so cute.
Yeah.
They're so fucking cute.
That's why she enjoys them. That's why she drew that one at the pottery place.
Oh yeah, she didn't she?
She's obsessed with the hog.
Hey, you can't blame her. Like hedgehogs, the hog is just out of this world.
I've heard that before. I not personally had one, but when I was younger, and you know, because like I guess you want to call them roommates, because this is my mom, her friend. So you know this person, at least the guy. He has a kid with the same name, and our brother hangs out with him a lot.
Oh yeah.
So we used to live with them, so him and his wife, and so they had hedgehogs. So the big E, he had one or two, I don't remember.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like when I was in kindergarten or first grade or something.
I see.
Spiky little balls.
You're spiky.
Yeah.
And they got big personality.
I don't know about all that.
Okay. Anyway, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Oh, what's our topic for mental health tonight?
Obviously I didn't really have one. It's just kind of vamping. I kind of wanted to just kind of go over like the whole last week or whatever. So you know, I've been sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically added on to the severe isolation problem I've been having.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it really hit me pretty hard. And I started, because I'm sitting there, and I think it was, I need to stop doing this because it's probably making it worse. But I actually sat there and timed my interactions with people over a 2-day period.
Well, you gotta stop doing that.
Yeah. So over 2 days, because it was bad enough when it was 1 day when this happened. This happened over 2 days. I had less than 30 seconds of actual communication with people over a 48-hour period.
I am once again encouraging you to stop doing that.
Yeah, and then unfortunately that led into a bit of a rabbit hole. So I started doing some research, and like, I don't know if these are credible sources or anything, but basically from what I'm reading, it says a healthy amount of face-to-face interaction with people daily in real life contact is 1 to 3 hours per day on average. And then in that same article, it says that right now in this country, people are getting severely depressed a lot more. Obviously, that's why you have a job.
Thanks.
And the average which is causing a lot of these problems, is most people are only getting about 34 minutes of interaction a day, face to face. And unfortunately, that kind of dumped me down even further, because I was like, okay, I'm not getting the 1 to 3 hours daily. And then it said 34 minutes is the average right now for adults in America, which is terrible, which is very bad for your health. That's not enough. And I looked at it, I went, wow, 34 minutes a day is what normal people are getting right now, which is bad. I'm getting that in 7 days total. So I am way behind the marker. And so that, I don't know, that was not fun.
Yeah, you gotta stop doing that. Like, it almost sounds like you're having like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost at this point, direct or consciously or subconsciously. But like, I understand, and I know we've talked about a lot about the social element for you, and like, as much as people are like, oh, well, if I think about it a lot, it's like me actually interacting with it and like dealing with it, but it's not. Sometimes people like don't challenge themselves stepping away from like challenging these types of thoughts, or like in changing or challenging behavior, because they're like rigidly staying in it and then continuing to reinforce it. Like, yeah, I would. Have you ever heard of internal family systems?
No.
Okay, so this is gonna sound a little abstract, and we're gonna get started with that before we get started. In saying that, and this is just like my general topic for everyone. So there's this the developer of internal family systems, or the founder of it. His name is Dr. Richard Schwartz, and Dr. Richard Schwartz tries to challenge the concept that like we're unilateral mind people that just have conflicting thoughts, and that we actually have like various parts to our system. And I'm gonna just do the quick version of this, because if not, they won't be here forever. But in that concept, he tries to talk about how there's different protectors in our system that use certain ways in order to manage like, the easier way to say is like negative core beliefs and negative core messages that we receive in like pre-verbal trauma, meaning trauma that we received before we were endowed with language or the ability to express our feelings. And it's like these embedded messages that we like, these rigid thoughts that we have of ourselves. And so our system overcompensates by trying to protect ourselves by managing them. And the thing is that it highlights that the system, our bodies, and like can't actually tell the difference about if a skill that we use to manage this pain is adaptive or maladaptive. It just learns that, hey, it worked at one point, and so why not do more of it?
Right.
And so sometimes when we engage in behaviors such as like, like black and white thinking, or generalization, or comparison, or like mental spirals, these are ways that our systems have learned to manage a even deeper pain that we may be attempting to avoid or manage. And it tries to highlight in saying that sometimes it's so used to a certain way of managing it that we don't even question it. But sometimes our system gets really tired of the way that we are used to managing it, aka these protective parts are called managers. That then sometimes when we start to slip, because we get really tired of using those methods, we start to then we have firefighters come, and these firefighters come to react to when our system is slipping and managing like these core messages and pain, which are called exiles. So managers are proactive in managing these deep hurts within that are like embedded in our system, whereas firefighters are reactive when our system is not on top of its game, and it will react by engaging in adaptive and or maladaptive ways in order to still manage the pain that is held by exiles. And so we may be engaging in behaviors that we actually don't want to do, just because we're managing a deeper pain that it's kind of harder to sit with.
Okay.
So I'm bringing that up because your system sounds, at least to me, that it is like it tries to manage this social peace that it desires in different ways, whether it be that you socialize in like bars or in like social areas, like like we go to social events where a lot of socializing can occur. Or it might like try to even stream. It's like, hey, I'm still gonna try to do my best to be this available social person,
right?
And even if it's like at ways that either do or do not sacrifice something for you, right? But when that part of you that takes on that role to actively keep trying to manage that social need gets tired, it might start leaning into reactive ways to get social needs, such as engaging in I'm trying to think, like drinking, because drinking like manages the pain of not having the social support, or helps you like loosen up to communicate, be more social. Or the firefighter might show up in ways of like putting you down, and being really, really mean to you as a way to like, again, protect you from dealing with the actual pain of what is underneath it all. Because we're so used to being self-deprecative that we don't realize how impactful and painful it is to be self-deprecating. Like, as much as people are like, oh, like of course I'm going to be harsh on myself, because if I'm harsh on me, it prevents people from hurting me, because no one's going to hurt me more than I'm going to hurt myself. Right. And so forth. But it all in all is because it's trying to manage a deeper feeling, a deeper core belief, or a deeper message you received from somebody at a very young age. So ultimately this goes to show that whole message of it's not going to change until the exile changes, or the exile gets the need that it always needed, or it's heard, and so forth. So as much as, yes, the social element for many folks is like, and in a nationwide or whatever the case, the study you read in, is a factor, we also have to know, and a very systemic problem is that more than ever, as much as we're more socially connected more than ever, we are more disconnected than ever.
Yes.
Like we're not authentically communicating. We're continuing to engage in people pleasing and fawning over people, so that because we keep just licking our wounds rather than actually healing, right? And so because of that, people just continue to just have these inauthentic connections with folks through dating apps, through social media, through what is that term? Through very like superficial small talk, and just this whole like comparison game all the time. Like all these things on a very systemic way are just ways that make our exiles feel more exiled, but it doesn't actually help like what the exile has always needed. And as long as it continues to get reinforced of not healing and just licking the wounds, it's just going to keep getting worse.
Right.
So I would suggest, it sounds like you're already taking steps by trying to go and,
See a
talk
therapist.
and so forth, or just like starting to admit in a very real way, like some deep pains with safe people, and like talking about like where that came up for you. And like, as much as like, here's the kicker for many folks, if you're listening. Oh, there are many things you could do that do not require therapy. But what it's gonna have to take is you willing to go to a very vulnerable place. And I know many folks feel like they can't because maybe they've never been exposed to an environment where they can feel safe enough to do that. So I would recommend starting there, finding a safe place where you don't reinforce shame, but allow shame to kind of like unfold. Shame is a feeling.
What do you mean by
And
let it
feel-
unfold?
like letting, like, no longer reinforcing shame and like reinforcing these messages of like I'm bad, or I'm not worthy of love, or I'm broken, these messages, like, because shame reinforces that. And shame is a firefighter that comes up that tries to like stop you from dealing with a deeper pain. So when you stop trying to protect yourself from the world, and just letting yourself just be, you're going to see a whole different light to how you show up in the room. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm doing the very, very, very quick version of this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like how one does that. How does one just like unfold this crap just by sitting there on their couch staring at the ceiling?
Well, if they start to say, like, they can journal and write out their story, like, as genuinely as the story was and how much it hurt them, or was impactful to them. They could do skills like, there's one that's called Empty Chair, where it's like, hey, even though you can't tell somebody who hurt you in your life how they hurt you, whether at all or whether you can't, because it's going to end up getting you hurt even more, you can engage in Empty Chair, which is like where you see another chair in front of you and you take time to imagine this person sitting there across from you, like genuinely imagining it, like how they look from their head to their toes, and this letting them finally hear everything that you had to say, because the brain can't tell the difference if the person is there or not, but it can tell if you finally share the things that you kept inside of yourself, right? And so when you finally literally say it out loud, even if it's just an empty room and an empty chair, the system and those parts that I was just talking about see that you're trying to validate them, and they're going to trust you more to feel vulnerable and feel open, and you'll be more connected with your authentic self. And that is what recovery is. Recovery is recovering the self that was lost due to trauma.
Gotcha.
This is what I do for a living.
Yeah, it's complex stuff for sure.
A lot of times I have to fight people trying to say, that's abstract. I'm like, okay, let's kind of push away the rationale of it being abstract for 1 second and just say, hey, everything that I tried before didn't work, so what can I lose for trying this abstract whatever approach, right? So a lot of therapy is going to have to do like a lot of interesting, unfamiliar things in order to have like pain be seen so that it can be felt so that you could heal. Yeah.
Right. Because if it was whatever they were doing before was working, then they wouldn't be there.
That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which I'm totally going to butcher, but I'm going to get to the concept of it, that says, if shame was actually helpful, we'd all be healed by now.
Right.
So, like, talking ourselves down or being self-deprecative, that doesn't actually help. It just shows your system it can't trust being vulnerable, because if you think that it's hard to trust other people and be vulnerable with other people, you should start working on being vulnerable with yourself, because that's going to matter more than any other relationship. You have to work on the relationship with yourself first.
Yeah, my
Yep.
situation, I feel like I don't have any problem being vulnerable with people. It's just nobody wants to hear it.
Well, do you want to hear it? Like, do you want to hear and admit how hurtful the things that you went through growing up really were? Not just what you know, but like literally saying out loud, like, this really hurt me. Like, I'm going to just use an example. I really was abandoned and I didn't deserve that. And I haven't had a chance to actually mourn my needs that I needed as a child.
I mean, yeah, I've tried bringing that stuff up to people before, and I said this all kind of goes back to a societal problem, in my opinion, is that I feel like a lot of people don't open up is because when they do open up, like in my case, it gets met with rejection. And so then you're left stranded again, and then they just kind of puts another dent in the lacking. It's like you grew up because you couldn't trust people for whatever reason, trauma-based crap, and then you grow up, you finally gain the courage to open up to people, which you're already overcoming your fear of people not being trustworthy, and then when you open up again finally and then they shoot you down again, like it just reinforces what you felt before. It's like, all right, my original feelings were warranted.
You also have to take your responsibility of, like, are you just sharing this with just anyone that's willing to listen? Because if you're also just doing that, you're setting yourself up to re-traumatizing yourself, which this is what that is. It's just continuing to re-traumatize yourself. It's about finding safe people that can have the capacity to hear you. And the thing is that instead of saying, hey, because they didn't hear me and didn't listen to me, that means I can't trust anyone. It's like, no. The chances are is that they haven't dealt with shit with themselves, and seeing you being vulnerable and them engaging in avoiding or stepping away from you or downplaying your feelings is because they're responding to their own pain, not your pain.
Gotcha.
And again, a lot, like, I cannot emphasize this more than probably any other message as a clinician, that I have to say, a lot of times, oh God, like probably like 97% of the times, that people are responding to you or like putting down your pain or stepping away from your pain, it is not personal. There is so much in this world that is not personal, and it can still hurt. Like, even if the intention is not to be personal, it can still be painful, right?
Right.
So it's like, the thing is that that's why even though, like, you don't need to need to be alone to do the work and to like deal with yourself. It's that you have to start working on the relationship of trust that you have with yourself. So, like, honestly, ask yourself, do you trust yourself?
In certain aspects,
you already answered. Okay, see how it's not like all of it though?
Well, because like, you know how my brain works. It's like I don't trust myself to rewire a house, but I trust myself to, get out of bed and get to the gym and do my normal job and feed myself and bathe myself.
And do you trust yourself to talk about really heavy things and your system is willing to be receptive and hear you out and validate your feelings?
I believe so.
What evidence do you have of that for you? And at any time when you're exploring this in your system, do you hear in your internal world conflicting messages that say, yeah, no, I don't fully trust this?
I'm gonna say yeah.
Like, you don't hear any conflicting messages?
No, I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, those are the parts that still have pain that's preventing you from seeing the signs of people of being trustworthy or not being trustworthy to trust to. Like, I suggest people to get to know themselves and honestly just stop being scared of themselves, because many a times people are like, oh, it's too scary, oh, it's too painful. I'm like, these are all feelings. Like, your body, like, and the wires have been crossed where it can't differentiate between the pain actually killing you and it feeling like it will kill you. So I definitely recommend like sitting and understanding what are those parts that challenge you and saying, no, I can't trust people. No, I can't trust myself. I always have to be perfect, or no one's gonna love me, or I have to be perfect to prevent being hurt. All these things, because if not, they're just gonna keep resurfacing and re-showing themselves in every single relationship, despite if the relationship is healthy or not healthy. You can't actually differentiate that too well if you don't do the work. In all transparency.
No, because you right there, you brought up something saying like, oh, I need to be perfect or whatever, or else nobody will love me. That stuck in my head because, yeah, go figure. Now, I know exactly where that thought process comes in for me, because obviously everything that I've done up to, like, everything can kind of fall back to like my weight loss journey and all that shit. And unfortunately, this kind of reinforces that thought process, because when I was younger and I was overweight, I got treated like shit by my peers and in the dating world and all that stuff, and that always came up like, oh, you're fat, you're not attractive, blah blah blah. And so that finally lit a fire under my ass to change that.
A manager, yeah.
Okay. And now it's like, things have not really gotten where I wanted them to be, but a lot of that shit has stopped flying my way. So unfortunately, that whole concept of, hey, if you make yourself more perfect, a lot of this, like, there's going to be less rocks hitting you from the outside if you fix this up nice and tight.
So you ended up choosing to use your energy to try to achieve a form of perfection to which doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, perfectionism is a form of addiction. Sorry to tell anyone here. They're like, oh, I have to, or like, I'm a perfectionist. I'm like, oh man. So how you living with that?
Well,
addiction?
It's like, anyway, it's like anything. You can look at a piece of glass and say that's perfectly smooth, but if you zoom in on it far enough, it's got imperfections. There's no such thing as full perfection. Yeah, you can get close.
Perfectionism is subjective.
Yeah, it can get close.
Not even about getting close, honestly, because ultimately, even if you receive the signs and the gratification of experiencing what you were trying to chase to in being perfect, it's momentary. It's never long lasting. It's like, oh, you get like feelings of feeling good for what, a little bit, or momentary, but then if once it's gone, you're back on the chase again. It's just like it's like chasing a high, because that's why in addiction or even in 12-step they said, oh, I'm getting a fix, or like I'm chasing a fix, or I'm trying to get like this concept of fix, because that's it. You're trying to fix something. The thing about addiction, as much as people want to shame people who live with addiction is that they're trying to fix something. The definition of addiction is broken down into 3 parts. 1, the cravings for an addictive substance and or behavior. 2, engaging in addictive or in said cravings, in said addictive behavior or substance to obtain a temporary relief from a pain and or temporary pleasure. And 3, difficulties or inability to stop despite negative consequences, right? The thing is that addiction can show up can show up differently for everyone. It's not just heroin, fentanyl, meth, gambling, sex, so forth. It's perfectionism, it's negative self-talk, it's eating disorders, it's caffeine, it's social media, it's freaking nicotine, it's like all these different things, because again, we crave those substances and or behavior, especially in the times we are experiencing emotional distress and pain. The thing is that our brain, in all of its wisdom, cannot differentiate the difference between if a previous pain is happening in the past, in the present, or in the future. It just stores it as signals in our body. So if anything slightly resembles our trauma in any particular way, even in the faintest of ways, our system will try to protect itself and fix this pain. And that is when we start to gain urges to engage in said addictions. Addiction is the diagnosis, but the way it shows up is the symptoms.
Okay. Now,
that's why as much as people are like, oh, I stopped drinking, it's like, yeah, but then you started working all the time and and started increasing in road rage. Which road rage can be addictive too.
Okay, so that's going to be an interesting few months coming up. Because that's going to be getting cut back on quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Bleep bloop.
Well, I'm trying to think, because with my whole working out thing, like, I don't see any negative connotation to it.
Because your society hasn't done that, right? But it's like, ultimately, do you feel there's a point in all of your working out where you will experience satisfaction? Like, this is enough, I can stop now.
You can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay, I will challenge that one. You can't stop, because if you stop, then basically, like, it's not saying with exercise and working out, this is, been proven time and time again. If you stop, your body's going to fall back into an unhealthy state, because it's no longer being, used for its point. So if you get someone who's, goes out and walks every day to lose weight, and then they're like, all right, I'm done walking, all that muscle and stuff they build in their legs, that's all going to freaking go back. It's like,
no. That's maintenance.
Well, that's okay.
Different than what I'm talking about.
Oh, then what are you talking about?
When people starve themselves and taking steroids, and a lot of they lessen social interactions, or always are at the gym, and and are always researching the next diet, diets and all these things, where it consumes their attention, it consumes functionality. The line of the difference of what you're saying and what I'm saying is how it impacts functionality.
Okay. Well,
and that's subjective, once again, to the individual.
Yeah, well, in my case, I did go down that hardcore diet, hardcore exercise route for
Yeah.
about a year or so, and then I went down the hardcore diet route, and I lost a buttload of weight, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, that's enough. That's, now I got to start doing something else, because now we've hit one point. Now we got to move to the next stage. And so then I went less strict on the dieting and then more strict on the exercise to put me where I'm at now. And now it's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, I need to be bigger or faster or stronger or whatever. I mean, it's more of a like, all right, this is good, let's maintain it.
Okay. Do you shame other people if they don't live a life similar to yours?
If they bitch about it, yes.
Why? Like,
Because
that's their life. What does it matter to you?
if the kids get it's people. Okay, I don't shame them out of nowhere. It's if they come and I basically, if I have to hear the complaints and then they refuse to make a change.
I'm gonna challenge that one, because it's like, here's an example in itself. Like our eldest, right? Like our eldest doesn't complain about it. He just kind of points it out. And how do you respond to that?
Okay, we'll pull this one around. This is more of a me pointing out how he got freaking chonky is more of a bringing it around town, Squidward, from all the like, I'm healthy, I do this, and just you can trace this one all the way back to when we were kids, where he'd call me fat and shit all the time.
Yeah.
And then now it's coming back around and the freaking tables have turned. Now it's like, well, now what? What do you have to say now?
Yeah.
Shoes on the other foot.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Your system remembers the pain, or whatever you want to call it, from when he used to do this to you. I'm not even saying this in a bad way of targeting just you. I'm saying this even as somebody that is not skinny themselves. Like, I would like starve myself. I would engage in like these ridiculous diets, all these things, in order so I could manage the pain of people like isolating me and making fun of me for being not skinny. Like, and so I kept on saying like, oh, I have less value because I'm not skinny, right? And then I experienced a lot of anger and resentment when people started leaning into this like acceptance of their bodies of any shape movement, which if I take a step back from my pain, sure, like who fucking cares about like what your body looks like? All bodies come in different shapes and sizes, and rationally I know that, but emotionally I'm hurt, because if that's the case of everyone's accepting it, then why did I experience pain when I was growing up? Like, why did I experience isolation? Why did I have clothes that were not made for me? All these things, right? And so a lot of our attention and our energy goes to mending and licking the wounds of our childhood. It just shows up in different ways. And no one's perfect. Like, even me saying this, I know this rationally, but it's not about what I know rationally, because I'm still an emotional being. Just like every human is. Sorry if you think you don't feel emotions, not you, anyone. But everyone does. Like, we have to experience emotions, because we can't depend on rationale and logic all the time, because like you just don't survive when you do that. Gut intuitions are not rationale, they're just feelings, right? And we need that to be alive. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that there's behaviors that I encourage people to question, of like, hey, even if you're used to it, ask yourself, why do you do that? And is the basis of it based in your pain, or not?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I lost
A
where
lot
we
of
were going with that one.
That's okay. I'm going to go back to, I want to kind of expand on that for just a second and say many people think that they're in control. A lot of people think that they're in control of their lives and themselves. And I'm here to burst the bubble and saying you're not. You have so much less control than probably you can fathom. And it's okay. Many people are seeking and spend a lot of their energy in being alive to having control. Because what does it mean to not be in control? Like, what does it mean to you to not have control?
Basically, it means you don't have security.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of times people think I have to stay in control and I need to be controlled because I need, like, because I deserve it. It's like, or whatever the case may be. Like, whatever reason that's subjective to you, I'm just using an example, right? But it's because you don't have security. You don't feel safe. You are risking vulnerability. The Latin word for trauma is to be wounded, right? And there is a constant risk of being hurt just because we're alive, right?
Right.
And there are messages that we receive from folks directly and indirectly that shape our behaviors, our lives, our occupations, our interpersonal relationships, our love for ourselves, all these things. And so much that we don't even recognize it. We're just so accustomed to it. But if you're someone that truly is like, ugh, why do I do this? Instead of shaming yourself and like putting yourself down because you do it because that's easy to do. Shame is easy. Being vulnerable is hard and difficult for many folks. Okay. So I would encourage you to, like, if you're feeling shame and like putting yourself down or saying like, oh, I am bad or I'm a burden, I would ask yourself, why do you think that? And it's like, and it's more importantly, who first told you that? Because no child in this world comes in with the belief and the possession of shame. It's gifted to them like the worst gift ever.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, like I'm just going to keep going back to like the weight stuff. A lot of it is society and peers.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's society and peers, right? So, and also, let's just be honest. Between the time frame that you grew up in adolescence and the time I grew up in adolescence, there was so much diet culture that shaped the way our parents thought, and then the messages that they embedded into us, right?
Yeah, everything switched.
And now we live in it where things changed, right?
Right.
Now, does it mean it's completely gone? Not necessarily, obviously, but it is a lot different than the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, right?
Right.
All of these time frames have just changed, right? And we are still coming out of generations that believe that you only deserve love when you're thin, right? When you're thin.
Gotcha.
It's like people starve themselves and like hurt their bodies in the name of what? Security. Like they want somebody to just say, hey, you're fine just as you are.
Yes.
However, peers, family of origins, and society have continued to reinforce these messages because of a mixture of multi-generational trauma and the societal point of profit. Many a times, like, there is such a large amount of money that is made for any person that is in like diet culture world completely. Like, have you heard of Lululemon? Why the fuck are those fucking pants, like those workout pants, $90?
I don't know. These are pretty comfortable. I'm wearing them right now.
See, that's what I'm trying to say.
I do like these.
And can everybody afford $90 like yoga pants?
No.
No, they can't. But will people spend, for some folks, will they spend their last dollar just to be in the pants because they're like they've seen that people are accepted and they obtain connection by doing that? Yes. The thing is that as long as there's a profit for it, so our mental health will be poor. And I'm saying this as an individual who gets paid to manage mental health. Now, do I do this? And like, because I'm looking for the money in regards of my field, they literally tell us in grad school, and they say it a lot, where they said, do not go into this field for the money. Because it ain't like that. As much as people are like, oh, they have so much money, but no, we do not. And also all of that trauma and pain that you don't want to carry, guess what I get to do? I get to carry it. and I get to hold it for everybody. But the thing is that if people in the field were constantly just giving themselves and sacrificing themselves for no compensation, they would also experience resentment and shame and pain without like some way that it supported them in any way, and that would then interfere with people's ability to provide proper mental health. So when people are like, if they care so much about mental health, why like do they get paid? It's like, because if we don't, then we can't provide the best services that we can, because we will feel like we're being taken advantage of, we'll become resentful, and that will interfere in our ability to provide help.
And also, I mean, like, it's a job. I mean, you have to be able to, you have to make enough money to feed yourself. And if this vocation does not put out the proper funds needed to, you know, house and feed and, you know, all that, like yourself, then obviously your attention is going to be drawn to something that is going to satisfy those what they call base needs: food, shelter, water. So that's why you need to get paid to do this, so you can focus 100% on helping people instead of trying to go, hey, I need to figure out where toilet paper's on sale.
Yeah. So that being said, sorry, real quick, I just think I saw, oh heck yeah, sorry, some of my favorite YouTubers are going to be in a city really close to me, so I might go see them live. Anyway,
cool.
Like, the thing is that, and I cannot stress this enough, as long as mental or poor mental health can be profited off of, it will continue to be reinforced. Like, it is a systemic problem, and it is not like, and as much as folks are like shame themselves, they're like, oh, I go to therapy, why am I still upset, and all these things. I'm like, because we live in a society that profits off people not doing well. Like, I'm gonna just use a quick example, like warehouse jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the common demographic for folks that are doing that work in warehouses?
Uneducated.
Low education.
Or
low socioeconomic. Low education, low socioeconomic, commonly and more typically male presenting folks, right? And especially younger male presenting folks, right? Usually at the prime of like that they could just handle working fucking 18 hours straight and then going home and work and sleeping for 4 hours and then doing it the next day. Right? And that is profiting off poor mental health, because it's like, or in the deterioration of mental health, that's going to destroy you. Like, it will. And there is money coming off of it, but the job that they're doing is the food that lands on your plate, and like, it's the products that we buy off Amazon. It's the, you know, it's the thing that fills the shelves in our stores.
Right.
Like, it's just something that like a lot of folks are not ready to really talk about, because then they have to admit a very real factor of how they are contributing to the problem too. And they are not ready to sit and live with that shame. So they turn a blind eye, and then then so that they can still feel in control, then they shame themselves but not have an open discussion about it, or they blame it and project it onto something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit there are. I mean, you probably heard me say this out loud, and people will go, "Oh, well, what about these poor people that have to do this job or have that problem or have to deal with this disease and all that?" It's like, look, I can only worry about so much.
Exactly.
You know, I can't. Like, I have a hard time just dealing with the pile of shit that's on my plate. I can't take other people's on. Because, you know, that's why I kind of get upset with people that come up to me like, oh, you need to donate to this cause to help these starving people. It's like, motherfucker, I'm trying to like feed myself. Leave me alone. Like, I don't want to hear it. But these people are sick and in these other areas. That's like, yeah. Like, I don't know what, like, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah.
How about you don't sit in front of like a, you know, like a Walmart asking for people's money? How about you go sit in front of, I don't know, fucking Lululemon, where people have money?
Oh, I kind of like that one, but again, once again, even folks that are homeless as well is also because somebody's profiting off of them being homeless. Like, that's why as much as people are like, oh, they just need to like get a job and everything like that. I'm like, I don't know how to tell you this, but as somebody that has worked with homeless folks, like, and has seen what it really takes to get out of homelessness, and I mean truly get out and sustain a life out of homelessness after you no longer have it, it is fucking difficult. Resources where like all of the homeless shelters right now, especially in the county we live in, full to the brim and a wait list a year and a half out.
Jeez.
Like, it's not as easy as people think it is, and so much that for the folks that are experiencing it, they just say, fuck it, like, then I'm gonna do what I can to still survive, right? And that's the thing, a lot of people don't like the lengths that homeless folks go to survive, because they are in survival mode. Survival mode does not equal being mindful and conscientious of emotions and care for folks and stuff like that. It means not dying.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but when folks are really pushed to, like, any person is pushed to the point where it's either kill or be killed, they're going to kill. Like,
right.
It's just what we're embedded to do. So when folks, the thing I truly believe of why people are uncomfortable with homeless people is because it's a true reflection of what is they risk truly if one paycheck doesn't show up, if one like eviction notice comes up, if the car gets towed away. All of that is so easily something that can happen to anyone, right? And if we really, and I mean really, wanted to actually solve homelessness, there are folks in this world that have so much money that they could totally take care of this, and they don't. Why?
That part I don't know.
Because there's something that they either gain from folks being homeless, or they are still managing their fear of being homeless themselves. So no, as much as it is easier to blame the homeless folks for being homeless, it's also so many much more steps to it, and people just aren't ready to have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, it is the homeless people, like, not all of them, let me put that. There are the ones out there that are making the rest of them look bad, just like any specific people in any form of society, from any ethnic background or anything. There's always people that are going to make the rest of them look bad. Or culture, yeah, anything like that. Like, specifically, I had mentioned on stream before that after seeing something that my new neighbors were doing, I'm starting to go, yes, we need more gun laws in this country. And I was like, I finally found why people are complaining. It's them right there. It's that group right there is causing the problem.
exactly. Every cultural collection
Mm-hmm.
is there has been enough people to taint the message of all of the group. Everybody, like police, white folks, black folks, Asian folks, fucking Hispanic folks,
Mm-hmm.
homeless people, religious people, non-religious people,
Rich people.
rich people, poor people, all of the cultures, all of the ethnic groups, all of the collection of people have had enough folks that has tainted the perspective of all, right? And once again, going back to my point in saying that because of this, many folks find it easier to say all of them, right? When all in retrospect, it is it's more of a spectrum instead of black and white of this or that. And it's like no culture is better than any fucking culture. I don't want to hear it from anyone. They're like, oh well, blah blah blah. I don't care. I really don't want to hear it, because then I can show you how your culture has played an impact on this world too, right? And so the thing is that people are fearful of leaning into humanity. Humans make mistakes, and like they just do. It's like, but we get trained to be anything but human in order to receive love. This goes back to what I talked about in previous streams about the fight between authenticity and attachment. And if the fight is between authenticity and attachment will always win. But the more that we put a wedge between ourselves and our authentic selves, the more that we're going to experience pain, poor mental health, self-hatred, and increase the likelihood of suicide and the likelihood of successful suicidal attack.
Right. Now, you say like going back and like leaning into humanity and like people make mistakes and all that. How do people finally get accept other people's mistakes? Because I mean, honestly, you can hear it all about, especially in this country, how I mean, this comes up all the time. Oh, the white man came over and took the natives' land. It's like, okay, that was a whether you want to call it a mistake or not, it happened. Okay,
it happened, right?
There's nothing I can fucking do about it. What do you want from me? Should I feel guilty? Okay, now I feel guilty. What is that solving? Should I not feel guilty and say, sucks to suck, I don't know what to tell you, I wasn't there, and now I'm getting hate from you because I don't feel guilty, which is going to make me feel bad? Like, I don't know how to solve that problem. It sounds like it's the people that are doing the shaming, it's their problem. But that's just my point of view.
I agree and I disagree.
Go ahead.
I gotta put my gum out. Because I'm getting passionate.
You have that fruit stripe gum, you just suck all the flavor out of it in 10 seconds?
Yeah, I did do 2 chews. I was like, oh.
Exactly.
But no, the thing is that this is a very great point, especially because you're a white presenting person, right?
Yep.
Like
presenting, no, I am.
I
know.
And I mean this even for folks in the world that are like, even were raised with like different like not like non-white like family members and stuff like that, but are still white, they will still get treated like a white version, right? And like the thing is that many times people will go to the angle of like, why should I feel bad? It wasn't me, right? And yes, it was not you. Just like for all of the cultures in the world, in that it was not them, right? And it didn't start with them. So what do, right? We have to recognize that it still exists, even if we know it's not us, right? It's like the whole concept for folks that are like, well, not all cops are bad. Of course not all cops are bad.
Right.
Right? It's like, but enough of them have, in that spectrum I was telling you about, have impacted the reputation of all, right?
Which honestly
So,
is not okay. Don't hate me here.
because
Just in my opinion, it's a very small amount of police that did some bad shit. If you look at how many officers are in this damn country,
yeah, and I get
but
that,
it,
and
they
I
do
see your
enough
point,
to
but they
ruin it
do
for
enough
everybody.
because they do enough to ruin it for everyone because they're supposed to be, and they're vouched as protectors of the peace. And no matter what, because enough, even if it's a small percentage for whoever in your perspective of it all,
Yeah,
no, even if that's the case of it all, you, like, for any individual in a position where they're encountering a person that is a police officer, they can't say, oh, just by looking at them, oh, that's a good one. They have to be on guard because some folks were not on guard and died.
yeah,
Like, and it's like, so again, this goes back to the point of I said of like kill or be killed. Like, people will always choose survival, even if rationally or emotionally it doesn't make sense,
right.
right? So, going back to white folks and people, police folks, and stuff like that, right? Is that the thing is that a large, like, if we just look back on it in history, because that's all we can do, right? Is like we have to look back onto history, right?
Right.
Is that in history there was a very significantly large amount of white folks that discriminated, tortured, and hurt non-white folks, right?
Right.
And we are not far from generations since that stopped. We still haven't stopped. Slavery is still happening for some places, even if you know about it or not. Doesn't, just because you know about it or not doesn't mean it's any less real, right? And so because of that, it's like going back to like, so what do you do as a white person that is not doing that and still has to experiencing that shame and guilt? One, you have to get okay with self and realizing when people are projecting that pain and hurt, it's a reflection of generational pain that even though the person projecting it onto you may have experienced it themselves, may have not experienced themselves, or probably are projecting the burden they felt from their family members teaching them these lessons, because that's how it gets carried on, right?
Right.
It is that you have to realize, like, hey, this may not be me, and this is a very real pain and trauma this person is possessing that didn't even begin with me. It didn't start on a Tuesday when someone started making some comments about being a white individual, right? And so you have to start by being, like, again, authentically knowing yourself and saying, hey, that wasn't me, right? And then you have to, then what can you do is that you're like, okay, so what, I'm like, what can I do to challenge this? You could extend your voice. You can, like, instead of fighting pain with pain, you could say, hey, I know that you're hurting and I'm sorry that you're hurting. Is there anything I could do to help? Right? Because that is vulnerability. That is taking on, yeah, I didn't do it. It's like, and you're a human that's hurting, and as a human, I can see you are, right? So is there something in my power I can truly do? And it doesn't have to be a big gesture. As much as people think they're like, oh, I have to fix racism. Racism is a part of being a human. I don't know how else to tell people that. It's like that's something deeply embedded into us because we are people of culture that continuously relate or try to find safety, and we find safety in numbers, and we will try to find anything to connect with others ever, right? The second you're in a room with 100 strangers, the moment you hear that that even 1, 2, or 3 of them are doing the same career path as you, what do? You gravitate to them.
Right.
Because there's familiarity, and in familiarity is safety, right? So the thing is that these folks are trying to find safety, and what can you do is that you can say, hey, I can only imagine the pain that you're in, and here's some space that I'd like to hear just listening to you. It's like, or if you see somebody that from, for white folks or any cultural, and you see that they're getting discriminated or hurt, you extend your voice and say, hey, I'm not going to tolerate that. Like, and you stand with them. Like, by doing that, you are now engaging in what is called kinship. And kinship is what people who try to do the argument of all lives matter I think, again, don't crucify me too much for anyone, but again, I don't have that control, if you will, is that we're trying to link arms and saying, hey, I'm here with you. But we are also really deeply, generationally traumatized people. Any one of us are, right? And for people that have experienced, especially different cultural backgrounds and intersectionality of those different cultures, it makes it really complex. But many people don't want to sit there and really think about the complexity of what people have gone through. They just want black or white answers because it's, quote, easier. But if we actually get to know one another and understand that, and not just adopt shame or pain and say, hey, that's not mine to hold, and I can see why they would project that onto me, I would also say, hey, they feel safe enough to project that onto me. And that in itself is something powerful. Because some people may not even feel safe enough to be angry at other people.
Yeah,
it's just hard to be a human.
Yeah, it's different from what I would do in that situation, I think. If like it came out to me, I mean, because then again, I think differently. If somebody's like, oh, freaking your people were the problem of X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, look, one, I wasn't there. You can't blame me. And I'm doing my part to make sure that shit doesn't happen again. And I'm trying to... What's that?
How?
Like not be a dick to people? Like see people as people?
Yeah. So if that's the case, then you see people as people. You also have to see people as their cultural backgrounds and their ethnic, backgrounds as well. We can't remove that from people. Like, just like you can't just stop being white, right?
No, I could.
But you probably get some looks, I will say.
I can find some really good hair dye that'll stain you good.
Okay, so you could be a purple person.
I could be purple. I could be green if I wanted to.
You could be green. You
Tattoo
could be brown.
artists
you
are
could be
very
yellow.
good. There you
They
go,
are.
tattoos.
Like, and that's the thing. That is why it's such an interesting time to be a person in the United States right now, because we're such an individualistic culture. You could pretty much be anything right now. This is the time of like uniqueness and individuality, if there ever was a time, right?
Yeah, just walk into a Starbucks.
Yeah. Oh God, exactly. Or not even just a Starbucks, but just like any little like niche coffee shop. There's a whole fucking rainbow in there.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly what I was thinking when because I went to a Starbucks today. I got my coffee and I was just like, every Starbucks I go into, there's somebody in there with blue hair or pink hair or green hair. I was like, if you just want to see people being themselves, look at like Starbucks employees.
There are probably more representations of folks being more closer to themselves, right?
Yeah.
And here's another kicker, is that even sometimes they may be doing that and they're actually trying to hide a true version of themselves. But we just won't know until we get to know people, right? So the thing is that being a human is complex. And people are constantly trying to put people in boxes and make them less complex or simplifying them. But when we do that, we as a society are engaging in that wedge between the individual and authenticity. And we need authenticity to stay alive. Authenticity is our gut intuition, and rationale is not always going to be like, is not going to come up in the form of like, I have a weird feeling about being here. Maybe I shouldn't be here, right? That's not rationale. That's your gut, right?
Right.
And the more that people separate themselves from that, the more they put themselves in the risk of pain and trauma.
Gotcha. Oh boy.
I know.
It's tough
Being
stuff.
a human, man. Just being a McFreaking human, dude.
I'm McHuman.
Yeah. That's the new Happy Meal at McDonald's.
Yeah.
A McHuman.
Man, we still got a half hour to go and I'm already just exhausted.
Yeah, try doing this 8 hours every day. Like,
Told you, this is why I don't have your job. Eggy did say something. She says one of her teachers always said that we can't fix other countries until we fix our own. As long as we have these issues such as hunger, poverty, healthcare, and so on, we can't fix it elsewhere.
yeah, like we need to like deal with it with ourselves before we could really help others. When we help others in the world as much as like, yeah, some folks are like, oh, that's very commendable that we're helping other folks. And when we do that, we're avoiding and ignoring the problems we have here.
Right.
So, yeah, like, of course, other people need help too. Like, and people here need help too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like anything. It's like if I'm emotionally in a bad mood and then somebody else comes up to me in a bad mood, it's like, look, I can't help them with their bad mood while I'm in a bad mood.
What? I kind of agree and I kind of disagree because, of course, I will always probably do that. But the thing is, there's this concept I like to teach like some of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's about registering and regulating emotion, right? Now, again, a lot of the things about helping other countries versus our own, that's a systemic problem, and I'm not going to pretend I know where to begin.
Right.
So I won't. Right? But what I will say is that you can, as much as this goes into the idea where people are like, oh, you can't help people until you help yourself, or like, oh, you have to be alone and deal with your own problems before you can be in a relationship or something.
I hear that all the time.
Right? Well, I'm here to finally say I challenge that ideal. Because in the concept of mentalization, which is the way that we try to, as reasonably and as accurately as we possibly can, interpret other people's emotions in their mental space, and including our own. It talks about how even if we're somebody that struggles in registering our own emotions and regulating our own emotions, we can still do that through one another, right? So it's like, let's just say you're somebody that doesn't know how to manage your anger, right? Even if you can't like register and regulate your own anger, you could also practice by doing that to yourself by doing it to other people, right? So it's like, hey, if like a friend comes up to you and they're like, man, I'm really angry, this thing really pissed me off, and you hear them and you console them, the way that you showed up in consoling them will give you some insight of how you do the same action to yourself. And if you're like, I don't know how to do this to myself, and you could see that you could do it for others, you just echo it again, but to yourself.
Right.
So it's like for me, for a long time, I could not connect with my anger. Like, I really was fearful of my anger. And I was convinced my anger was too scary and too big because when I was younger, anytime I got angry, I imagined beating the fuck, like, to the point of, like, sorry for anyone that has to hear this, but to the point of, like, bloody death to, like, our father. Like, I imagine that more than I could ever fucking admit, right? Like, I would just want to take one of the pieces of brass in the house and just go to town.
One
right?
of the many pieces.
Yeah, I was specifically thinking either the cranes or the Coca-Cola bottles.
Oh, I was gonna say
Anyway.
the freaking candle holders, but alright.
All the candle holders were also pretty good, or the Egyptian like statues. Anyway, those were probably solid too. Like all of them, right? But I was so scared of how angry I could really get as a child that I wouldn't connect with my anger, right? So I was like, I can't, like, I can never be truly angry in the way that I feel like I would embody anger.
Hello, Icy Cat. How are
But
you?
I saw how I
Welcome.
would jump, I would present and show support for others and their anger, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, damn, if I could do that to them for them, why can't I extend that to myself?
Right.
Right? So what I had to do for my system is I had to find a safe place to get like allow that anger to be experienced, and then try to be like, hey, it's okay, you can feel this, you could also put parameters on this. You could put a silly little fence around this and say like it doesn't have to be so big, but maybe it just needs to be big for a little bit, and then it will reel itself back. And that's what happened. Like
Mhm.
I was unbearably angry for, when did I start working with my therapist? For like at the beginning of this year. I literally started this year saying this is going to be the year of my anger, right? And when I finally connected with that, I realized that there were a lot of emotions underneath it. And I already had the skills to manage all those emotions underneath my anger. And so I was like, oh, it wasn't so scary. It was just a lot of emotions that like kind of spilled into one another.
Right.
So the long story short is that people, although think you have to be alone to manage these things, you can start getting insight for how you consult one and like other people, and then extend it to yourself. And even if you hear messages within you that say like shame and this is not authentic, you're lying to yourself, newsflash, when you're being mean to yourself, you are already lying to yourself. It's just that your system is so accustomed to being mean to yourself as a way to manage the underlying emotions that it just keeps reinforcing it. But if you actually start being nice to yourself, giving your and extending some self-compassion and allowing the empathy, like, hey, I can feel this and I'm going to be okay, then you start to rewire your brain physically. That's why a lot of people, when they're in therapy, start getting headaches a lot, because their physical brain is actually rewiring. And then one day you're going to truly start to believe that.
I wonder if that means
Yeah.
my brain's getting rewired because my head hurts.
I'm gonna just plainly tell you, you are changing. Like the way that you talked this time last year, or even more example, August 2nd, 2020 was my emotional rock bottom, right?
Okay.
And shortly after my emotional rock bottom, like a week after that, I moved down to where we are now, right?
Gotcha.
The way you talked then is incredibly different than how you talk now.
Okay. That's good.
And you are a lot nicer to yourself than probably you have been your whole life, in the times that I've seen you just fucking dog on yourself.
Right.
And the thing is that it goes to show you it's very possible. Like, in all retrospect, you were one of the most negative people I knew. Like, but at one point I realized, like, of course he has to do that because he's trying to keep himself safe, because if he talks himself down and hurts himself, then it prevents anyone from hurting him more than he can hurt himself. So he is saving himself, right? But like, you're allowing yourself to like hype yourself up and like say, hey, I'm not gonna put up with that, and hey, here's my boundary in dating. And here, like, because every time you do that, you're saying, hey, I'm worthy of care and being respected. And that is like, that's incredible, coming from a generation of a person that allowed themselves to get beat to the point of losing teeth in the name of quote love.
Right.
So although it may not be where we want to be, it is better than the last generation, and we're only going to do as best we can now. And if we're somebody that continues to allow the gene pool to keep going on, we've given the ones after us a better chance. We truly have, even if it doesn't feel like it.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
If they appear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a big if.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. I think
Like, even now with our eldest, even with what's going on with like his child still thinks about the world in a way that is changed and different than how he did, and it looked differently than our dad did, and it looked differently than our grandpa did, and all these things, and our grandparents and so on and so forth.
Right.
It just takes the tiniest amount of change that will unfold a whole new way that the next generation will see the world.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of seems it's a little bit unfortunate that the two members of the family that have made the biggest leaps and bounds are the ones that are like, we don't need to make more people.
I'm tired. That's why. I'm tired. You're tired.
Yes.
We're tired.
Is there anything else you want to add to that specific point? Because I kind of had like something else written down.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, actually, no, I do actually want to add on to that. This happened recently, very recently, like within the last few days recently. I don't want to get too specific into details, but you said the whole thing about how talking down to oneself or whatever to protect themselves from what other people could do.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminded me of something that happened, like I said, very recently, where I don't know the exact conversation, but I was like something was said, and I was like, I do that because I'm awesome. I have, this is how I get things done right here because I'm good at this. And like the response from the person I was talking to is like, it's like, wow, they're like, you think you're awesome? I was like, yeah, and they're like, wow, like that's surprising. Or they kind of like snuffed at me saying that I was good at something or awesome at like whatever we were talking about. I remember it specifically. But just like that, it kind of threw me off, and I just straight up said, I was like, look, if nobody else freaking is going to boost my confidence, then I have to do it myself.
Sure.
And so I straight said that to them. I was like, look, I have to hype myself up because everybody else won't do it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
And that, like, that's what I always think. Like, and you have, and I would encourage, you don't have to do shit, but I would encourage you to be mindful of, are you doing it to a point to where you're also not allowing yourself to see your flaws, right? Like, for me, right? I know, like, I think I'm great. Like, I think I am bee's knees, right? Both knees bees, right? But, and I also know I have flaws. And just because I have flaws, it doesn't mean I'm any less awesome. It's like, just because you make mistakes or have human moments, do you still think that you're awesome? Because if you don't think you're awesome still in the time that you're making mistakes, then the awesomeness that you're holding may not come from a very authentic place.
Gotcha.
It could be still coming from a protective place. So it's like, I could make the ultimate mistakes at like work and so forth, or in my interactions and so forth, and it's like, hey, it's like, I still am great and I'm still a lovely human being that just makes mistakes sometimes, and that's okay. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Like, it's just what we do. Like, if we continue, again, going back to the point of perfectionism, think that we can't make mistakes truly, then we're not allowing ourselves to be humans. So how the fuck do we think that we're going to extend that to other people?
Right. Something I guess I can kind of add on to that's in that necessary ballpark, I guess, of I don't know why this jumped in, but for instance, the insurance on my vehicles, both of them, the due date for that bill was on the 28th. I'd missed it because I was sick last week, and so I tried calling the company last night once I was like, oh crap, I gotta pay this, their website wasn't working, and then I called them and they're like, no, you have to call back your business hours, blah blah blah. And so the whole night I'm sitting there like panicking. Well, I wasn't panicking, I was having a mental battle with myself because I'm sitting there. So I'm sitting there thinking about, I was like, oh man, I've been driving around without insurance for the last week. I was like, oh man, I really screwed up. What if I got in an accident? And I was like, I just have to go to work tomorrow. I have to drive my car to work tomorrow, and the insurance places are going to be open yet. I just started going through all this shit, and then I kept having to tell myself, like, stop. You'll be fine. Just call them. Yes. You'll get it handled. It'll be set up by the end of the day. Just be careful in the morning. You'll figure it out. But then, one time my brain keeps coming back in. It's like, no, you fucked up. You should know better. You should have had this done. I can't believe you let this lapse. You're being irresponsible. And then the other side of my brain's like, it's fine. Shit happens. Get over it. It'll be okay. So I'm just sitting there like watching my two sides of my brain duke it out.
Okay, pause real quick.
Uh-huh.
This is exactly what I was talking about IFS. About Internal Family System.
Okay.
Because these are the parts that Dr. Richard Schwartz is trying to say. And as much as it's easier to say that these are just conflicting thoughts, I would encourage you to see these as two separate entities that live within you, right? Two separate parts within you that in themselves hold these thoughts, but are not one person that is just having two thoughts that are conflicting upon each other.
Right.
So, because on one end, a part of you authentically knows you're going to be okay. This is going to be figured out, right? Like, and if you were in a more healthy mind, this wouldn't have happened. You know that. I know you enough to confidently know that too. You are so on top of your stuff and being able to manage these things when you're in a set mind. And you were sick. Not only were you sick, you were sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this other part of you that's putting you down or trying to shame you has learned, if I do this, right, I minimize getting hurt, because I bet in your history, when in some form of a family member or someone you care about or were being taught that is supposed to care about you, put you down or didn't accept you when you made mistakes, right?
Right.
So what did this part in your system learn? I have to shame you and put you down to motivate you to prevent this from happening, so you don't risk getting hurt, right?
Now,
it can't.
What if it's not necessarily like someone had put me down or whatever? Because I honestly think that whole mindset right there comes from, it does come from the parents, but it's not that they put me down for making a mistake, for like, let's say having something be late. It was more of, I watched them do things where bills were late and saw the repercussions of such.
Yes, that is another way this can show up too. I just say getting hurt as an easier way to say it.
Okay.
But it's not just limited to what happened to you. It could also include what you learned consciously or subconsciously, right? So here's another example in a flip side, right?
Mm-hmm. Another
flip side is that when I was younger, right, I felt more free and more authentic like myself when I was being a little bit of a rebel, right? Where I was just like not being quote ladylike and not like playing in the mud and all these things, right?
Right.
And like and all that. But when I wasn't doing or when I was doing that, I wasn't getting as much as attention and care and love than when I was put together and doing well in school. When I was doing well in school, I was praised. I was gifted with food and love.
How's it going, Kraken?
And
Welcome back.
communication and connection and so forth, right? So even though I didn't necessarily learn that being a rebel was a bad
Let us know what's on your
thing,
mind.
being a star student was reinforced much more.
Right.
So my system learned to get your emotional needs and so forth, you need to overcompensate in being better in school and keep being better in school. The same way that you put in that effort for you and losing weight, right? That
Right.
was me with school,
Well, I
right?
mean, I do the same thing in school, or
Yeah. And so going back to your point of like it's that you saw the repercussions with the parents, right?
Mhm.
It's like your system indirectly subconsciously said, I don't want to experience what I'm interpreting that looks like, that pain looks like, so I'm going to make sure I never do that. And so here comes what it learns is the shame piece, because you didn't get the appropriate angles of, care and proper positive reinforcement, and you still got the same outcome of never experiencing that pain. So again, going back to my point of the system can't tell the difference if something is adaptive or maladaptive. It just learned it worked, so I'm going to do more of it.
Gotcha. Right.
But here's where you know that you are healing and doing better yourself, because there's another part in IFS that says and talks about the capital S self. The capital S self is the true form of self. And how do you know if it is the capital S self? Is that if it holds it holds qualities that are similar to like compassion and empathy, which you demonstrated, right? You're like, hey, I was sick, right? Hey, and in being sick, maybe you lost track of time, or hey, we'll just be careful, things are gonna be okay, you will get the insurance.
Right.
That goes to show, if you ever need a true example of how you know that you are healing and getting better and healing from your traumas, is that you can hear that voice now. Many people can't hear that voice at all. And because you're doing that and you're earning that for yourself from a generation, and I know enough about at least the father element of it all that we didn't get it from the ones before us. But that means you're earning it for yourself, and that means you will never be like that.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be where it never happens. It's just about minimizing the opportunities of it coming to life. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So good job. Very proud of you.
Yay, thank you.
welcome.
Let's see. Looks like Kraken Ocean is back. He was, or they, I don't know if it's he, were here, was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, because we weren't there yet last week.
Yeah, so last week I was sick, and then the week before that...
I think it was it was just us.
Yeah, somebody stopped by. I'm just kind of looking at the recent followers list. So Kraken stopped by 21 days ago. Gave us a follow. Well, they're back. They say that they're doing fairly poopy at the moment, unfortunately. But that's all the information I've gotten.
Yeah.
Well, Kraken, we are coming up close to the towards the end of stream. We still got about 10 minutes. So if there's anything you want to throw in and want us to go over, give a quick rundown, then feel free to drop it in. I was going to move on to that next thing I had written down just to check it off the list. This is something to do with jealousy.
Okay.
So there's somebody I know of. They are a younger person.
Okay.
Like early 20s area, somewhere in that general vicinity, and they are like it's not just this one person. I see a lot of people in that age range. It's also like a guy at my work, his daughter's doing the same thing, where these people around this like early 20s, not even 21 yet, some of them, and they're doing these crazy things, like they're doing like going to national parks and flying overseas by themselves or with friends and doing all these crazy trips and this and that. And I'm just kind of looking at it and I'm jealous of it because, one, I can't do that yet. And two, I never had the opportunity, and I'm just kind of like, how the hell that you people get to do this stuff? And then I kind of follow that thought path, and it goes down to they have supportive family systems behind them. And then that brings up like stuff that kind of starts pissing me off, because it goes, look at all the shit I'm missing out on because the family system that we had was such horse shit that it has literally prevented, or not prevented, but at least has postponed to a great amount the things that I want to do in life.
Yeah, I feel that with you.
Because it's shit that I had no control over.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that ultimately, like, we just come from a pretty, and I mean pretty, like, poor background. It just is what it is. And because of this, we just have a lot of, like, less privileges and access to stuff that, like, we want. However, we can mourn the loss of that, and what we can do is and we can grieve that, sure. And it's like, and we can use the power that we have now in order to get chances to do that now, like, maybe not just a second, but we will eventually get there, like, and we can still have the right to feel upset about it nonetheless.
Right. Yeah, because like this one person I know, they're going over to Europe for a couple weeks on their own dime, and then the guy at my work, his daughter went to Japan for a week on her own dime. I mean, and then even like Concussive, he flies out here from time to time on his own dime to come visit us from Australia. And it's just like, fuck, man, I wish I could do that. Just be like, I'm up and out of here for a week or two. And just...
I get that.
And I just, financially, I just can't do it.
No, I hear you. Like, and you're on the path of getting to a place of doing things probably nobody's going to be able to have access to, and people are going to be jealous of you too. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's okay to be upset about what we didn't have, truly. And I encourage you to also remind yourself that, like, you have the right to be upset about that and be hurt by that, and know that you're doing everything that you can to change that for you as well, like, actively as we speak.
Right.
Like, your reality now is not going to be the same in whatever amount of time it's like for things to fall for you. I'm saying this also as like for instance, like, we recently went to the convention, right? And when we went to that convention, like, at any time prior to where I am in my career right now, I could have probably afford like one thing, right? And I'd be like, oh, I'm never going to financially recover from this. right? And I was able to get many things, like, and I don't feel bad for saying it. I was see, even right now, I was about to defend myself of like, which that wasn't a flex. I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I don't get to dictate if people seeing that as a flex or not. It's like I have rightfully have worked my ass off to get to a place where I can buy things that I want to buy without being fearful that rent's gonna get paid and food's gonna be on my table.
Right.
Right. And that felt really good. Like I was like, yeah, like I worked really hard to get to that. And I know parts of my system, the protective parts of my system, because of how I grew up being very significantly poor and couldn't even ask to buy a pair of pants without feeling like I asked for a block of gold.
Right.
Like, and realizing this is healing, right? Like, there's so many messages, especially as people growing up as poor as we did, that it's like we have to like still listen to the voices of shame that we felt from the upbringing that we had, right?
Right.
And this is everything that the generations before us have prepared us, whether consciously, subconsciously, directly, or indirectly, right? A great example is our great grandmother. Woman fucking grew up during the Great Depression, right?
Mhm.
Like, she would work her ass off. She didn't retire till she was 87, right? Like, flex on your grandma, ours is better. Anyway, she did. And she and even if she had very little money to her name for whatever reason, she would always try to get us anything we wanted. Like, and I mean try, doesn't mean she could.
Right.
Like, but she would try her damnedest, right? Because she wanted to, like, because that's what she wanted as a form of her trauma, and that's how she showed love, right? Does it mean it was adaptive or maladaptive? Her system didn't know that. That's why she enabled behavior in our father for so long, right?
Yeah.
But I know it's like, and that's a whole different story. But it's like, but because of that, and we saw that, now we realize that, like, oh, it's okay to have the desire of having nice things or having our needs met, right? And so what do? Then we learn, hey, I'm going to keep trying to make that happen for myself, right? And that was built on her challenging her trauma, which was probably built on her building off of the trauma of her parents and ABC from there, right? So, and all of that, of course, she wasn't going to have everything that she ever wanted, but she tried the best she could. And the same for us. We may not be able to just go on a dime to just go on trips and go on adventures and stuff like that just yet, but we're getting there, you know? And we, like, you know, you're in your late early 30s, right?
Late early 30s, okay.
Late early 30s. I'm in my late 20s, right? And it's just like, it's like, hey, we don't even know what things are going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now. I could definitely tell you that, like, 5-10 years ago, I could have never predicted where I am today. So we might as well just stick around to see where things are going to end up, and maybe we're going to be like that too.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I doubt it, though. At least for me. Just because I
don't.
A lot of steps I have to go through first.
I don't. Like, maybe we just don't know.
I don't know. That's true, but I can, I have a pretty good prediction.
Yeah, I still couldn't have predicted anything that's going on for me right now. Not even the slightest.
No, but I'm saying I can put a pretty good prediction into 6 months out.
Oh.
Maybe not 10 years, but like 6 months is. I could probably nail that down pretty good.
Yeah, well. And even in that, like, what if you won the lottery? What if...
I'd have to play the lottery to win the lottery, but yeah.
My point, like, nonetheless, it's like we just don't know.
Right.
Even if we think we know, maybe even try to hide behind knowledge, because knowing a lot is a form of protection for some folks,
Like
right? It's like, you
me.
can't hurt me because I know too much, right?
Yes.
It's like, and that's me too. Like, how can you like challenge anything about or like of like let's just be honest. Like, a great example was one time we did a stream a long time ago of playing playing Jackbox,
Uh-huh.
and somebody came in and heckled us,
Yeah.
and somebody was like trying to go after me being like chubby, and then I fucking put them in their place mentally, and then they stopped.
That was fun.
Yeah, that is what I did to protect myself, because I'm like, I could be fat, but you're dumb. So, like, and I could always lose weight.
I would
So-
actually like to do that again. I would like to have people come in just so you can school them. Like
Hi, let
roast
me
battle.
roast you.
Yeah.
Like, let me put your insecurities on blast and then provide services of healing it, because that's not demented.
I mean, it's just like that whole thing with the TikTok I posted, where I was like, "Hey, check it out! I figured out how to do this," and the first thing somebody comments is like, "Dude, stop painting your fingernails." I was just like,
Yeah,
and then you just
exactly.
fucking everyone just laid into that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Because who fucking cares if you painted your fingernails? Like, nail polish exists. Like, fucking fuck off.
Yeah, they're not painted anymore because I got guilted out of it.
I would still paint your fingernails. Like,
I
your
would,
fingernail look
but-
cool.
I need to. I don't know. I gotta find a color there. Like I have to buy some first because everything I had was Aggies, and I
Oh,
gave it
was
all
it?
back to her. Yeah, I just did it for that one time. Then it all finally chipped off, and I'd already given everything back to her. So
Well, we can go look at different colors. It would look nice. Like, that would be fun. It's like, hey, let's go figure out what color works out for you. Like, that would be fun.
yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay. Anything else for this evening?
I think that should do it. I'm gonna have myself a pre-made meal and probably a cup of soup. Or
Ooh, a
cup of noodle.
soup.
Sorry, cup of noodle.
Heck yeah. Cup of noodle. Like, one of my favorite go-tos, especially if I'm not feeling too hot. Very go-to when I'm not feeling good. I would just have a cup of noodle, and yes, this is gonna sound like prison food, but hell, it fucking works. When I'm not feeling well, either cup of noodle or chicken noodle, and then I put lemon in it, and then I put hot Cheetos in it, and it's like, man, that's prison food. But damn, do I be coughing up phlegm? And then I'm all warm, so then my stomach, or like my system, starts to like sweat out and like sweats out the sickness,
And
and
then-
so yeah.
Then you get the big old super poo.
And then you get the super poo, and because liquid and a lot of water, then you get the super pee. And so, like, it's just a healing experience.
Yep, that's why they do ayahuasca.
Yes.
For the puking.
Blah!
Blah!
I feel better.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Drink water, because even if you are not passionate about your water, water makes you do breathing exercises. And so anytime that you feel anxious, drink some very cold water, as it both cools down your nervous system and it forces you to breathe, which allows you to step away from your limbic system and stepping into your prefrontal cortex.
Yay. And speaking of daily words of wisdom, it sounded like you had a dying walrus behind you the whole time.
Yeah, I got somebody healing too over here.
I had to call
But they
him out.
also have asthma, so anything that impacts respiratory problems, it takes way longer for them to get better.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Don't get the COVID then.
Yep.
All right.
There's-
Well, that's going to call it for today. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. People that did stop by, Eggy and Ice-T Cat and Kraken and Combo. Yeah, Eggy's still here. Thanks for
I like
thanks for just putting stuff in chat. You know, and
It means a lot.
yeah, just having people know that, or just knowing that people are here, hopefully getting some sort of either entertainment or advice. It makes it worth it for me.
Yeah.
So
See?
yeah,
So I hope this fills up your social gauge a bit.
it does a bit. That being said, actually, Aggie and I have been playing Fallout 76 quite a bit this week, and that's actually been helping a lot.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
See, I think that putting the attention in the things that you got in your control rather than what's outside your control, aka also just doing research of social stuff, can go a long way. And then you therefore reinforce yourself, and then you probably feel better that way anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care of yourself, drink water.
Okie dokie, will do. Yeah, so there will be no Therapy Thursday next week since Asteria's going to be out of town.
Why don't you play with Aki?
Wait a minute.
Just chat with Aki.
She'll probably be working.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So that's why. Because I know.
hate that for you.
What's that?
I said I hate that for you.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks everybody for stopping by. If you want to watch this again, it should be up on Twitch, you know, immediately afterwards. If not, it'll be posted on YouTube. You can go watch it in the future for whatever reason. Or show it to your friends. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Have them come around. If you got coworkers that feel like crap, or family members, or maybe the bottom of your toe has become sentient and can use a keyboard and it has opinions, let it go after the keyboard and come around.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah. And then if you end up watching this on YouTube for whatever reason, you made it this far, please come join in on the live streams. Check the link in the description below the video, or go to twitch.tv/kilted_report. Give us a follow, and we'll see you on the next one. As far as my streaming goes, beyond that, possibly tomorrow I might do something, then maybe Saturday or Sunday morning back with some coffee with Isaac, and then, you know, Two Wheel Tuesday on Tuesday, you know, stuff like that. So just keep an eye out.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you, Asteria. Bye. Okay, see you later, chat. Have a good one. You guys go do stuff and be good. Okay, bye.